Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to talk today. CAVU, anybody know what that stands for? It's an aviation term. It stands for Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited. From the beginning of aviation, it was the perfect day to fly. CAVU's in the business of helping other companies and high reliability organizations deliver their perfect day. So today's panel discussion is on winning in times of change. Throughout my career, starting back in the 80s, when I joined NASA as an engineer, through my 21 years in the Navy, first as a carrier pilot, and then as a Navy test pilot where we developed weapon systems and brand new aircraft like the C-18G. And then over the last 10 to 11 years as a leadership coach, mostly on offshore oil rigs, I've seen failures and I've seen successes with integrating new innovations and new technology into systems. So first off, I'd like to talk about a success. The commercial aviation airline industry. So in 2015, they met a milestone where they met a benchmark of flying over 100,000 flights in a single day. In fact, in 2015 alone, they flew 3.5 billion people on 37.6 million flights with only one accident every 3.1 million flights. If you do the math, that's almost 6.5 sigma. That's pretty good. Couple that with the fact that not all of those accidents involve fatalities. You had a 1 in 17 million shot of being killed on an airplane in 2015. That's a pretty good and a pretty safe form of transportation. However, it wasn't always that way. In 1977, the airline industry had to basically take a cultural paradigm shift based on an accident that they had to deal with on the small island of Tenerife off the coast of Spain, where 583 people lost their lives. So what happened on that fateful day? This gentleman right here in the middle of the screen, Captain Jacob Van Zanten, was in a hurry due to situations. And he took off without a takeoff clearance, resulting in his 747 colliding with another 747 on the runway, killing almost everybody involved. What made this accident even more tragic was that he was rolling down the runway, both his co-pilot and his flight engineer knew that he was taking off without a takeoff clearance. And they lacked the cultural authority and the cultural support to stop him. What made this accident even more telling was that had Captain Van Zanten been a brand new pilot, they probably would have solved this as well. We need to train him more. He should have had more experience, and then they would have moved on. However, that wasn't the case. Captain Van Zanten was their best pilot. He was their chief training officer. He had been their chief safety officer, and he was their poster child, ironically, for punctuality. So now what are they going to do? How are they going to tell their stockholders, we can still be safe when your best guy made a mistake? Conventional wisdom at that time, we'd like to call it old school wisdom, was that the best course of action was to take your best trained, most experienced guy or gal, put him at the helm, they direct, and everybody else follows. Well, that system works right up until the best person you have makes a mistake. So now what do they do? Well, they reached out to other industries. And what they found was a program that had been put in place by NASA, and that program changed the basic assumption. This was the paradigm shift. What NASA realized is that you not only have to accept that your best people are going to make mistakes, you actually need to expect that they're going to make mistakes. And rather than depend on luck, what you do is you put a team in place that communicates so they can all catch those errors early that we know are going to happen and mitigate them before we break things and kill people. They also realized that to instigate this kind of culture into an organization, they needed to perfect some soft skills. The number one and most important is leadership, right? Leadership does have an obligation to direct and even set vision, but they also have an obligation from more of a servant leadership standpoint where their main goal should be to support their team and to set their team up for success. Give them the training they need, give them the resources they need, give them the visible presence of them on site to support them so they can be the best they can be. Communication. It's not just from the top down. The leaders actually have to build a team so that communication comes up, so they can catch mistakes when they make them, as well as from side to side. Helping instill that teamwork is the basic and the best fighting unit, right? It's the most reliable system, as you said, John, that we have. Understanding the relationship between decision making and situational awareness. If we have teams that together build situational awareness, our decisions will be better decisions for the scenario. And probably most importantly and most focused on is human factors, how people interact with machines. The one thing the aviation industry has accepted is that people fail in very, very predictable ways. When we're tired, we make mistakes, so they mitigate that. When we do a hazardous job over and over, we get complacent. You can't get around that. So what you do is you have methods to combat that complacency. You accept fallibilities, and then you work your way through it. Like I said, I've been in oil and gas now for 10 years, and I was very encouraged by the fact that the oil and gas industry is starting to recognize some of these best practices from other industries. How many people have read the report from the International Association of Oil and Gas Producers, Report 501, written in 2014? So, the IADC, in conjunction with the University of Aberdeen, they wanted to look out to see if there was any best practices from other industries. And what they found was, they actually found this program that NASA had been working on and had evolved from other industries. And they said that if oil and gas was going to make this next step change in operational safety and efficiency, they should look at adopting some of these soft skills of CRM. They followed up the same year because a lot of companies were saying, well, how do we do that? So they actually, in this report here, they tell you how to build a CRM program within your company. They tell you what to use as instructors, what objectives to use. They're trying to spell it out. In 2018, they actually followed up with another report that said, look, if you're going to try to recognize these behaviors offshore, these are some of the behavioral markers that you can use. So this is CRM tailored for the oil and gas industry through your own organizations. But I'd like to kind of put it in the way that we coach offshore and how it affects and uses those CRM skills. Using this performance ladder, we see that most organizations target safety, right? That is their number one objective. We want to get the job done safely. However, can we agree, or at least agree today, that we all have good days and bad days? Individuals have good days and bad days. Teams have good days and bad days. Rigs and even equipment have good days and bad days, right? And if we target safety as our benchmark, when we have those bad days, we find our teams in places we don't want to be. I would argue that if we move that target above safety and we set our objectives at standardizing our operations, standardizing our language so that we're all doing things the same way, so that we can see those deviations, right? Making sure and supporting our team by giving them accurate procedures, usable procedures, and make sure they comply with them, we can bring the magnitude of those deviations down, right? So even when we're having a bad day, we're still safe. And as John mentioned, a feedback loop. Operationally, as we bring a continuous improvement feedback loop onto the team, so that we now take those standardized operations, we brief the team on that standard, we execute to that standard, and then at the end of the job, we do a critical self-analysis or a debrief and say, okay, we just finished the job. What did we do well? What can we improve on? We can reduce those deviations, the magnitude of those deviations even more. And now, because we're looking at ourselves and we're analyzing ourselves on a regular basis, we actually increase the frequency of those improvements, and we get even better. Lastly, if we support our frontline supervisors and our frontline managers with the basic leadership skills they need to inspire and motivate their teams and to support their teams, we may never get to perfection, but we can get pretty darn close. And even on our bad days, we're much higher than we were when we just target safety. This is working in the oil and gas industry. In 2019, a CRM program was implemented with a major operator in St. John's, Newfoundland. The program is still underway, and within 7 months, that rig, that large offshore semi, has gone from number 35 of 53 in the fleet to number 2 in their number 1 floater. In 2018, a CRM program and a leadership program was implemented in a large service providing company at their R&M facilities. NPT was reduced, injuries were reduced, and their maintenance KPIs actually went up quite a bit. In 2017, same CRM mindset was employed with onshore training, followed up by offshore training, and the goal was to basically reduce or eliminate that learning curve on a brand new rig heading out to sea. It was a 11-month program. They finished it in 9 months, 150 days ahead of the well plan, and they had 0 incidents, 0 injuries, and reduced NPT. So these best practices are implementable in oil and gas, and so I'm quite happy to see IOGP recognizing that. Thank you very much, and I look forward to any and all of your questions.